Good evening. I'm Rachel Ferrante. I'm the Executive Director here at Museum LA. Thank you all for joining us, whether that's here in person or via Zoom. We're excited to be back offering programming at least partially in person. I'm so pleased tonight to welcome Dennis Price of Capital City Improv, who's been entertaining Maine audiences for the last 20 years as an actor, improviser, high school teacher, and comedian. His work has been featured on WCSH and the program 207. He will, of course, be chatting with Mike Rancourt of Rancourt and Company about the making of Team USA's Olympic winter boots. Rancourt and Company continues the long legacy of shoemaking here in Lewiston and embodies the enterprise and innovation of the area. Thank you both for joining us this evening. Tonight's discussion is the first in a new series called Made in Maine. We hope to offer at least 2 more of these series this year. The conversation will be followed by a question and answer session. We encourage those of you on Zoom to put your questions in the chat. At the end of the evening, we'll also draw 1 lucky name from a hat of those of you that are here in person to receive a custom pair of Olympic boots. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dennis and Mike.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. As Rachel said, my name is Dennis Price, and I am your host for the evening. And I am pleased to be here hosting this particular discussion. This is the first event in over 2 years that has happened here at the museum. So I just want to say special thanks to Rachel, Tracy, Janine, everyone, and Sean, who is on the Zoom. I think they deserve a round of applause. I am not from Maine. I don't know if you can pick that up right off the top. Yeah, you hear a little twang still remains. I'm from Virginia. However, I love living in Maine, and I made the decision to move here full time probably in 2003. One of the things that I notice about living in Maine is there comes with being a Mainer a pride in things being made in Maine. And I've noticed that throughout the years. It's a beautiful sticker. It sometimes goes on certain ones, from jack traps that you use in ice fishing all the way up to other items like candles and things that my sister-in-law makes. No matter what happens, when people say that things are made in Maine, they know that it carries with it a special meaning. And so tonight, Mike, a little lead-in for you about being made in Maine. We're going to hear a very special story about these components and how they ended up being the boot that one of you may very well have on your feet by the end of it. Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about the process, how we got started? I know it's complex. I know there's a lot of pieces.
Okay.
You talk now.
2 things. I just reminded myself to put my phone on mute. So if you got phones,
Yeah.
kind of do that. And then secondly, I am a Mainer.
Yes.
Mainer. You know, originally from Lewiston, and my wife is from Lewiston, from here. My dad was a shoemaker. My dad was born in Canada, immigrated with his family, around 8 kids back in the 40s and 50s. And my father was, my grandfather was a logger, and my father was a lumberjack. And when you got to a certain age, you realize I don't want to be a lumberjack the rest of my life. So that's when he decided to learn how to become a hand sewer. And a hand sewer is when you're taking a moccasin and you're sewing them together. And in the 50s and 60s, there were thousands of jobs available hand sewing. And so that's where my father started. And then along the way, he migrated to a smaller factory here in Lewiston Auburn, and the gentleman who owned it wanted to retire, and my dad bought part of the factory. So that's how we started the family back in 1967.
1967.
1967. And we have been making shoes here in Lewiston Auburn for all of that time. Not under the Rancourt name, but under various iterations of the Rancourt family. And so now, 12 years ago now, I decided that the company that I was working for, my wife and I had sold the factory to Alan Edmonds. Alan Edmonds was put up for sale. Venture capitalists bought it. And I said, I'm not going to do this anymore because they want to close you. They want to do other things, send stuff outside the country. And I convinced them to sell the factory back to myself and my son. And guess who comes through the door?
Hey, perfect
This is my
timing.
mission.
Perfect timing, as if he knew.
Yes,
what was
exactly.
happening. That's a kind of a business relationship, I would expect, from father and son.
So my son had just graduated from Marquette University in Milwaukee, and in 2009, and we bought back the factory from Alan Evans, and we launched the Rancourt company at that time in 2009. And here we are today. We've gone full circle now. From making just boat shoes and camp mocks and ranger mocks to now making product like this. So I'm going to segue into Olympic boots.
Very nice segue. I like that. I can help you by saying there seems to be a legacy sort of the shoemaking. That seems like a theme that comes up a lot when you read about your companies and what you do. So that's great.
Yeah, it's interesting because my dad was, he came from, Canada. He was an immigrant. Had very little education. Back then it was really all about working. But he had this real sense of, I'm going to say, customizing whatever he worked on. So making hand-sewn footwear is a craft, and he just loved that aspect of working with leather. And so that stayed with him forever. Even when he retired, he was still always talking to me about coming in and doing some hand sewing for us, which he probably would have made 2 pairs a day at that point, but it always stayed with him. And so, that feeling, that legacy, that Dennis just brought up, has been part of our family for, decades now. And I still feel the same way. And my son Kyle's here. He's a partner with me, just so you know. He walked in just as I mentioned God. And he follows that tradition of feeling very connected to product. That's the whole goal here, is being connected to what you're doing, the people you're working with, the people that work with us, our communities. This is super important to me that Lewis and Auburn, is on this stage now, that we're producing this great product that the world sees, and Ralph Lauren shows on their site. If you go on their site, they actually advertise the fact that, Rancourt Company, Lewis and Maine, made these products for us. Very important.
And your third shoe for Ralph Lauren, if you didn't know that, it is the third Olympic shoe that you've created, which led me to ask, why does Ralph Lauren like you so much? It seems like you're like buddies with Ralph.
So first off, I don't know Ralph.
Okay, all right.
Let's clear that up right now. Their organization, Ralph Lauren is very classic as well. If you look at their products, they're very traditional. They make mixed colors in a way where some of us aren't quite comfortable with, but it's still a very classic product that they're putting together. Even when we put this boot together, it's a very classic hiking boot that they took, and then that was their inspiration, and then asked us to build around, this boot that they had in their mind. So, from the standpoint of Ralph being able to, a Ralph Lauren polo, being able to produce a product at a higher end, a premium end, they want the authenticity that we bring to it. We still hand sew the same way it's been hand sewn for hundreds of years. So they tell that story, and I think that's why they
Made in
love
Maine.
us. Exactly.
Made in Maine. All right. Well, we have all these props, and I'm
Yeah.
dying to start with what goes first. So let's do it. All right, here we go.
So this is, let's say this is the beginning of a concept.
Oh yeah, there we go. Here, I'll be your Vanna White, your Carol Merrill. Is this okay, Sean? You getting this on the Zoom?
Yep.
All right.
Can you see me if I Zoom okay if I stand?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Hi there. Hi, everybody. I'll cover up, Mike. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get you going. Here we go.
So let me hold that.
Yes, you hold that.
You can sit down.
Okay, yes. I listen. I listen whatever you say.
Concept, iteration. And so if you look at this particular boot, you see, this is called, we call this a dog ear. You see this dog ear? And so when the inspiration for the design of the boot was based on a hiking boot. I won't get into the brands of it, doesn't really matter. Their design team, and they have a design team for Ralph Lauren, sent us drawings that were based on this look right here. And so when we first started developing it, we always try to capture what a design team is asking us to, produce for them. I mean, that's just very much out of respect for what it is they do and what they bring to the table. Invariably, as we start to go down this path of making prototypes, these things change. So iterations, and they're constantly changing. So if you look at that dog ear, there's no dog ear here. It's gone now. And what we found is that as we're now moving from prototyping to manufacturing, we're now setting up some, I want to say they're time studies, not based on how fast you work. When we do a time study, we need to understand every element in regards to timing so that as it moves down the factory, we know where our backups will be, where our queues are going to be, where there'll be some delays. And when we got to this design, this dog ear, it was just not possible to produce it in any time frame that we could ship boots to the Olympics. And so we finally said, enough, we cannot produce this. We're going to go to this more streamlined design. So no more dog ears in here. Lots of iterations along the way. So here's when we started to, if you look at this, if you can see it.
Yep.
Hold on.
Thank you, sir.
You can see now we're starting to make these drawings, and this is based on our CAD system that would actually place where the D-rings go. So the D-rings, these are the D-rings. So these are D-rings here, these are speed laces here. And so that's now beginning to take shape so that we can get to this point here. All right, so everybody see that?
And how many people, Mike, when you talk about design team, you're thinking like 7? Is it 3? How many people?
In their design team?
Right, that you have to sort of,
We work with 2.
okay.
Yeah, we work with 2.
I was like a crew of people could be a little bit, yeah.
Well, then there's a merchandising team. So the merchandising team takes this product that we're creating. We interact mostly with the merchandising team. The merchandising team is responsible for bringing product that design is requesting. When I say design, I mean, there's also the Olympic Committee, United States Olympic Committee is involved, and then all the senior leaders at Ralph Lauren, from Ralph himself to his brother and his sister, and a slew of people get involved. So because first is clothing, all the colors relate. When we put a boot like this together, the colors relate to the clothing. So they make all design decisions on clothing, color, style, how it's going to fit, so on. And then they come to us and say, okay, here's what we're going to be using for clothing color. And then we send that out to a tannery, or they send it out to a tannery. And then the tannery matches the colors of the uniforms, the opening ceremonies, that they're wearing. So 2 people there, merchandising team is 3. Our interactions with merchandising, because they're interacting with the Olympic Committee, US Olympic Committee. We don't have any communication with the Olympic Committee, which is probably the best.
You're okay there, yeah. I gotcha.
And so along the way, everybody in the Olympic Committee is also commenting on design changes that we're making. So, this is called a puck for us. Some people call it the badge. It's called a puck. And so they'll make a decision on how big this is going to be and where it's going to be situated on the boot. So again, that's them. What the Ralph Lauren is interested in is the overall execution of the product, the balance of the shoe, and the overall look of it as it relates to the uniform, the opening ceremony uniforms that they're going to be wearing. There are 36 components. I did not bring all the components. This pair of shoes that I have on is roughly 6 on each, so 12 components on this shoe. On a typical boot that we make, you know, a more tailored boot, somewhere's around 15. 20 would be a lot. This one had 33. Yeah. So
33, is that like a Larry Bird thing? Was that on purpose? Was there? It just happened that way.
yeah, should I ask them that? or-
I don't know. I mean, you know, hey, it's New England.
So there were just so many components to it. And, you know, hence putting this together. So when I was talking about when we actually start to do the labor count, you know, the labor time studies, we also look at, you know, how it's going to position itself through the factory. And so at some point, we have 5 stitchers roughly that will handle this. And so we had 33 pieces that stitchers had to handle. So the cutters are cutting, the cutter cuts the entire boot. The stitchers, we have multiple stitchers, and each stitcher has a responsibility in regards to how this comes together. So hence why you do time studies. So time study tells us that if one stitcher is taking 3 minutes to produce a half a pair, that's what we're looking at, is half a pair, and then moves it on to another one who takes 10 minutes, you can see what's going to happen. 3 minutes is going to create a queue, a backlog over the next position. So when we were looking at all these pieces, I mean, just the engineering on this was probably the most, and I say this, you know, really candidly, it was probably the most challenging, you know, shoe boot that I've ever worked on, in our factory ever worked on. No one in our factories, and most of the people in our factory have been with me or my father. So if they haven't worked on it, then if I haven't worked on it, then they haven't.
Right.
And so this was really the challenge for us, is to execute in a way that, so it's not just being on a world stage. Ralph Lauren has a quality process that is also the most stringent that we've ever been involved with when it comes to the Olympic products. I mean, every pair is inspected, and every pair has to pass a certain level before it moves on to, you know, what they call a good shoe. So along with the fact that we have many people touching it, we also have all of these demands, you know, from stitch count to, you know, the way that the puck is located. I could go on, it just goes on. And so meeting those standards, I mean, I think that's probably the most intense amount of pressure for all of us, the factory included, in regards to meeting the demands, the quality demands that Ralph Lauren puts on us. And then if they pull one out and say it's below standard, so it's damaged in their mind, then let's say there's 100 pairs that we're inspecting. If they pull one out of the 20 that they're looking at, we have to do 100% inspection of the 100 that are sitting there. So now we have a team of people doing this. We have to go through all 100 pairs and look for any defect that is visible to their eyes. Before we get to that point, all of the boots, we make these prototype boots, they're sent out to labs. Most of the labs are in China, and they'll do pull tests on the sole. They'll do a leather test to make sure it doesn't crack. They'll do a color fast test. They'll do a lace pull. Yeah, this goes on and on and on. This is before we actually get into full production. Then we get into full production, this other stuff comes in. Regards to the quality process. So it's genuine when, you know, when we're sending out boots, Olympic boots or Olympic sneakers, there's an immense amount of attention paid to the product that we send out. And of course, Ralph Lauren's name is on it. So they always remind me it's Ralph Lauren's name and not Mike Rancourt's name. Yeah, right. So the 36 pieces. So here was the beginning. They wanted to use this fleece. This was the lining, which in my mind, from a quality standpoint, this does not represent Rancourt product. It's not what we do. They may do that, but it's not what we do. And so this fleece, we get the first shipment in, and you know, I don't know fabric, but all you ladies will know about pilling, and it started to pill. And so we have first production coming through, you know, roughly around 24 pairs, and the lining is pilling. And so now it's stopped.
I don't know anything about anything. You don't want that, Mike.
You don't
I don't know
want that,
anything,
yeah.
but you don't want pilling.
Yeah. That'll stay with you for a long time. And so now we have to stop. We have production coming. I'm sorry, did you have a question? Yeah.
So, don't they usually
Test.
test the fabric?
That's a
before
good,
they-
that's a good commentary.
I bet
Yeah,
that didn't
that
happen.
was my question, because they actually use this lining in some of the clothing they made.
Right.
And so it wasn't just pilling, it had to be pilling for other people as well. And so now we've got like, whatever it was, 20,000 yards, which was crazy because that was the minimum. And we had to stop. And then, we went to plan, which I thought should have been plan A, this is deerskin. So we went to a deerskin line. Does not look much better than that.
Very
Yeah. And so then, now a quandary for us because the lining had not been tested. So now we have to send the lining out to another lab, a different lab than testing the soles. And had to wait 2 weeks to get approval on whether or not the lining could be used, deer lining could be used. So again, just delay after delay after delay. This is what we're contending with. As the Olympic dates are starting to come closer to us, we're trying to figure out, okay, can this really happen? So no shortcuts. I mean, we had to get the approval on it. And when it came back, color fastness was a bit of a problem. So, contacted the tannery and said, can we put a sealer on it so that we can diminish the color fastness? I mean, the color transfer. And he said, yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll put a sealer on it. And so that we could get, unfortunately, the deer skin, as deer is hunted a certain time. And so they accumulate, this tannery accumulates the skins, and then they tan it as you need it. So the good news is that when you're buying leather and it's already tanned, that means all you have to do is color it. And so we got leather in 2 weeks, which was amazing, because most of the time tanneries take 8 to 10 weeks, sometimes 12 weeks now. So 2 weeks we had the lining and we're back in production at that point. And we were just keeping our fingers crossed that there'd be no other disruptions and no other delays, just because the time was coming.
Killing disaster. Now I'm going to just hold on to that. Oh, it's very nice. I don't know if I can describe it to you, but it tastes. It feels like deer skin. It tastes like venison. It's been overcooked a little bit. You were saying, Mike.
We had to bring him to the factory.
That's
I
right.
think you would do well with that.
Please, yes.
This little shape, you see this little shape? It's rounded. We actually had to figure out a way to do this by hand. Yeah, so we created these round tubes, and then this is all done by hand now. So, before stitching, it's called pre-fitting. So they take this and they actually round it themselves, our staff on the factory floor, they round it to get this shape by hand, because it's the only way that we could figure out how to make this consistently. So again, when you look at these steps that we're taking to get to the boot, it's just an amazing process. And I can't speak more highly about our workforce than what we all just experienced and went through in putting this package together and getting it out the door. I mean, at some point, I know they didn't want me to come through the factory, so I tried to stay away. I went on the outside of the factory floor because they're like, why did you take this program, right? Why did you take this program? But you know what, now that we got it done, I mean, you could tell they were super proud of the work that they accomplished and, the success of it. And for those of you who might know Sean White, so there's a lot of TikTok comments and videos, and Sean had a room full of clothing for the Olympics. You can imagine everything you can imagine, Nike and Adidas, I could go on. But one thing he did, he picked up the boots and he brought right up to the camera and he said, "These are super cool."
Nice.
Yeah, we all felt good. The staff at the factory felt great about that. So they liked it. They actually liked what we were making for them. So,
No, man, that was his last Olympics.
It was
So
his
that's
last
a good
Olympics, yeah.
seal of approval. For
Yeah.
his stuff. So I'm gonna ask you this: was there ever a time where you were like, "This is too much. Like we can't, like, this can't happen. It's impossible. But you made it all sort of come to fruition. Any of that, like behind the scenes tension?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think he knows something, that's why.
I know, I'm leading. That's why I'm here.
So in between all this, we had a change in our development team. And so we brought a couple new people in. And early on, I had suggested that we use deer lining and we get rid of the dog ears and like really early on, just when we started, we didn't even make a proto. I was just so concerned about the time element. And so their comment to me, Ralph Warren, merchandising team said, be careful because you're going to offend the designers. And I said, well, just ask the question if they would consider it. And so they asked the question and pretty much came back with a firm no.
Like, just no,
So we're not
I'm
gonna
sorry.
do it. So here we are later on down the process now, and it's really getting close to, we started production the weekend of Thanksgiving. Not the weekend, the week of Thanksgiving. And we had to deliver these we were supposed to deliver them by November 1st. And it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. And finally, we had said to them, if we don't start, by the end of November, we're not gonna make the deadlines. And so this new team comes in and it was kind of great because, I'm like, as an owner, I'm trying to be sensitive to our customers' demands and requests. But the two new people that came in, and I wasn't in the meeting, they went through all the details of the merchandising team. They said, no, we're not doing a dog ear. No, there's two other things they said, no, we're not doing that. And so I was like, oh my God, they told me the story. And I said, what was the results? And they said, they signed off and said, let's go. Yeah, because time was coming.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's the tension that Dennis is talking about.
tension.
There's always tension. I mean, this one is more acute because you have this hard date. You have to meet these hard dates. And so, I mean, that's what it is when you're making product for somebody, it needs their items within a certain time frame.
And for your country, I mean, like, not to be hyperbolic, but you're making a product that will represent your
Yeah,
country.
United States, in Maine,
And
and
Maine,
Louis Nova.
and Louis Norbert, and Rancourt.
Yeah.
In your house. I mean, we're getting too small.
We got-
Excellent. Oh, yeah, we can do that right here.
How many pairs of boots did you have?
So hang on 1 second.
Yeah, wait, let me answer this one.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So there's certain things I can't share, all right? So, yeah, years ago, I made the mistake of talking about how many boat shoes we made for the Olympic, and I said 4,000. Oh my God, within 2 days, I get these emails. Why did you share that number? So I don't share the number, but I'll just say this to you. I mean, it's a number between 500 and 1,000. How's that?
That gives us 500 to think about. Now back here, sir, behind the column.
So,
Kevin,
so
how
when
are you?
when I'm making multiples of anything,
Yeah,
I've got these three categories. I've got perfect, almost perfect, a little bit more work to be perfect, and forget it.
that's
So-
4, I think, Kevin.
Yes.
That was 4.
So do you have these categories in shoes?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So, first you have, so perfect. It's a really hard term when you're
Yeah.
making, natural product like we
Right.
are, and it's handled by, anywhere from 15 to 25 people. So we make product that falls within, if you put metrics to it, falls within a range that meets all the tolerances, right? And that would be our first product. And then you get the second product, so it falls out of the metrics. So the stitches are a little bit longer, maybe the puck is turned a little bit, sideways so that you don't really see it. Most consumers would never see it, but we see it. So that becomes the second. And then the damage. So that's damage for us. That's the third one. That doesn't go anywhere.
Okay.
The boots I brought in yesterday, those are damages. So it's just, we could never get those to pass.
So leather's expensive.
Yeah,
And all these materials are expensive. So of the shoes that you plan to make, well, in a day,
yeah.
what is the percentage of the shoes that are?
I see where you're going with this. That's the damage rate. So here's what we do as a company. We don't sell damages. We tend to throw them out. So normally it's 1/2 of the pair that's damaged. So we'll throw it out. But in regards to the rate on this boot, it was fairly low. It ran around 5 to 6%, which is low. On the sneakers, prior to the Olympic sneakers, we were running somewhere around 15% at one point.
You're making it sound a little more wasteful than we are. A lot of damages we.
I was stepping in
Yeah,
there.
a lot of damages get repaired, it'll go back and get fixed, and then they'll join the other half. But it's so bad it can't be repaired.
Yeah, so damage is a damage, meaning we're not gonna repair it, so. But if you look at that group that we produced, it's about 5% that we completely took out. And
That's
first,
pretty good.
there's something called first production, so first production is, so when you put all this product together and everybody's starting to learn how to use it, put things together, first production is really rough. I mean, this goes for, it doesn't really matter whether you buy automobiles or clothing or footwear, first production stuff. And so first production is where the highest damage rate will come through. And then after that, everybody's learning along the way, all the nuances and things they have to learn. And again, with our folks, because they're so skilled and they have so much knowledge, we get through that curve pretty quickly. Within 2 weeks, we're pretty much hitting the strides and the quality demands that are required.
Absolutely. We go right here in the back. Yes, ma'am.
So I said, Rancourt was the best part of the Olympics, but I wanted to know how you figure out, how do you figure out sizes, it's like,
Yeah,
there's so many millions of sizes in the world
yeah.
to make.
They give us a size range. So like this time on the women's, they started at a 2 and they went up to an 11. And then on the men's, they started at a 1 and they went up to a size 15. And what's happening, you can see what's happening. And if you follow the Olympics, they're not making decisions. The athletes aren't really determined until maybe sometimes 2 to 3 weeks before the Olympics starts. So then we start getting feedback from the Olympic committee saying, we got too many of these and we want to add this, and this happened all the way to the last week we were actually producing. They came back and
Some of the
said,
others then.
what's that?
Are you able to sell the others?
Can we sell it? No, but whatever they ordered, we tell them right from the beginning, whatever you order, we're sending it to you because we can't sell them. So, we don't want overages. They take their overages.
You had a question here?
From start to finish, like from when they first contacted you
Yeah.
until you delivered the last one, how long does that normally take?
I'm going to say a prototyping to when we start production. It should be somewhere around 3 to 5 months. And then production starts and, you're looking at another 3 to 5 months for production,
That's quick.
depending on the pairs. Yeah, it's fairly quick. Yeah, fairly quick. So, the other advantage for us being in the United States is that we can turn these pretty quickly because we're smaller, right? So that we can react to demands much more quicker than a bigger factory.
Yes, sir, right here.
How long does it take to make a pair of shoes?
So I'm gonna kind of separate. There's a queue period. There's a time when, so these are lasted on a form and they're shaped on a form. And then there's the form. And then we place them in a dryer for 2 to 3 hours. And then after that, this is old time shoemaking. They have to sit on that form for 24 to 30 hours. So if I take that out and you just look at the actual element of people touching it, this boot would be around 3 hours for one pair.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Mike, is there anything else about the Olympic boot that you would like to add before, maybe as we get into more questions? Is there a final stage with which the tension was released, the design? I just want to know why there's masking tape. That's all. That's all I really want to know. Why are there boots here with masking tape on them? And then we can get to one.
Sorry, I kind of forgot this problem.
Yes, I want this.
So again, now this would be the pattern maker is actually taping the boot and then drawing lines as to the request from the designer. In some of the situations, we actually send this to the designer, they tape it up and come back and say, here's what. This was a reflective red and they wanted to be pulled up. And you noticed on the last one, there's no reflective red. That was another one of the, no, we're not gonna go ahead and put reflective red on. Because it was ripping away all the time. And so we said no. So we suggested they use leather and they said no. I said, okay, then it's gone. I didn't say that, again, the team said that, so. But yeah, that's why we take this, so that you can actually draw on it and look at your lines and then go to your CAD system and make the change.
And you come up with things like this. Looks like a Rorschach test. You remember?
Yeah,
Um,
so that's actually a vamp.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe talk about why tape is used, because you're taking a three-dimensional object.
Yeah.
And remove the tape and turn it into a 2D
Yeah.
pattern.
And which will like then cut, right? in that
Right,
dimension?
so our CAD system is 2D, not 3D. You can buy 3D, but we use 2D. So this is 2D, obviously, right? 2-dimension. And so once you tape it, you can actually take it off, pull it off, lay it on a digitizing board, and then they'll digitize these lines to this pattern on our CAD system.
So the technology is not only in the making of the boot, it's inside of the materials, it's all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's a lot going on there.
yeah, CAD system has just been amazing for us. Yes.
Oh, a question from the Zoom. Understand that you can't sell these, but if you could, what would be the approximate retail?
So
Everybody, everyone wants to know.
That's a good
It's always
question.
money.
some of the athletes actually put their boots on eBay. And
Oh, do they really?
And so we were following two in particular, because it came on, it's a bidding process right on eBay. So it came on the first day, it was like $150, and I was laughing. I'm like, wow, somebody gets that for $150. It's a lot of boot. But anyways, I'll get to the end of the story. It was on there for a week and it sold for $750. So that's I would call that the market, just because, somebody's willing to pay $750.
That's it. That's what it's all about. Yes, in the back, please. Thank you. I had to.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
You clearly went into high gear for this Olympic production.
Yeah.
What happened to your other ones?
Ah.
Oh, good call. Yeah.
This is a guy who knows, maybe not manufacturing, but understands that if you're prioritizing, the numbers that I just threw at you, what happens to our other business, and our other business suffered. And so lots of, again, so the stress isn't just from the fact that we have this hard date to ship, there's also this demand. And we sell a lot to consumers, direct to consumers. And so, yeah, we upset quite a few consumers over the last 90 days. And it's funny, Dave, our customer service plays much more than that. He started using the Olympic boot as one of the reasons why they weren't getting their shoes. So after a couple of months of that, he got one email, and the guy said, okay, the Olympics are done. Where the hell are my shoes?
Right. Time to deliver here. Amen. That's it. That's good.
Yeah, it's a good valid point. Everything else gets pushed back.
Go ahead right here, and then we'll get to you.
How many employees do you have?
41.
And age of, you have people that worked with you forever? Do you have new people
Yep.
learning the business?
Yeah. So the immigrant population, they're Angolans and Congolese. We have been hiring them now, employing them now for a good part of 5 or 6 years. They run an age from mid-20s to mid-50s. So our average age in the last 5 years has gone from, at one point I had taken it was like 52, 51, 52, now down to about 40. We dropped 10 years off our average age with our and there's super nice people. Who's French here? Is anybody here French Canadian or yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
So, there you go. So they are French speaking. Pretty much Congolese is French speaking, and so it's always interesting because I get to use my terrible French, but they like the fact that they laugh at me because I'm using my terrible French. But it just reminds me so much of growing up. My grandparents spoke only French. And so we had to learn how to speak French. And so it just reminds me of that, the fact that, these folks are, and they so diligent. Most of them have 2 jobs. They work, Abbott Labs has this incredible pay rate that they pay. So they work at Abbott Lab for maybe during the day and, 2 days, 3 days a week. And then they come work with us for the next 2 or 3 days. So yeah, great people. Thank God we got them.
Time?
Could you talk a little bit more about how, from a technical perspective, this boot is so much different and so much more difficult and more technical than anything you've ever made in your entire career, and the challenges you faced in terms of not just developing and investing in skills, but also maybe machinery and equipment and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, technically, this is a highly technical boot, and the parts really convey that message. And the skill sets required to making the boot was, like I said, none that we've ever had, that we've ever gone through before. In machinery, yeah, whatever piece of machinery we thought was going to be appropriate, other than stitching machines, it just didn't work. We couldn't get the quality standard, we couldn't get the volume, whatever it was.
You mean existing machinery?
Yeah, existing, like the D-ring machine for the D-rings, yeah, it didn't work, so we had to go out and get another one. The brand new one we got still didn't work. We had to go get a third one, because the irony of producing a technical boot like this. Does anybody have hiking boots where the rings actually lock in place? Yeah, so the lace locks in place. So you're pulling it up and there's a lock here. You see this little ring. And so it locks. And then you can imagine, so the athletes were not given any particular instructions, right? And so you got some big, strong people and they're yanking and they're pulling the D rings out. Yeah, so crisis time, right? So we get this email on a Saturday morning, because now they're distributing the boots. And it's, and I try to stay composed no matter what they throw at me. But that one, I was like swearing up a storm.
Oh, okay.
Because we were not happy with the fact that they chose this D-ring.
Yeah.
Because it was locking, and most people don't use these kinds of D-rings. And so now they're pulling it out, they're pulling the whole D-ring out, and it's coming back to us that we have a quality issue. Right, yeah, it's quality issue. So then we go out and buy a third machine and finally, hopefully, it was delivered, it was something in stock in America, and we were able to get it in 5 days. And then we had to train people on it, and so trained everybody on it, and the problem went away. So again, like Kyle's talking about, the technical aspects and the skills and the training, and first production should always be worn because you get to learn about your product, So if I make a pair of shoes on new production, I'm not making a pair of shoes so that I can have a new pair of shoes. I'm making it because I want to learn about the product. I want to know how it's going to perform. So nobody had worn these, and we sent them out to the athletes, and then things started breaking down. Fortunately, it wasn't a big problem. They found only about a dozen pairs, that way. And so we had to replace them, obviously. But then the second half of production had the new machine and the new process.
I love the soles. It's really like a light mountain
Yeah,
bike boat, and you invested in new equipment and new techniques for attaching the soles as well.
This sole, this is highly technical as well. Very lightweight. Here, you can pass this around to see how lightweight the boot is. Another one here. See how lightweight it is? There we go. Why are you hiding those?
Come on up.
She's trying to keep
That's
those.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Get some pictures. I've seen enough. Nice. Always good to give some handouts.
Yeah.
Right, so things you can hold on to. Tactile.
Just gotta come back this way.
All right, we have a question over here. Oh, yes, sir.
Let me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna talk about the soul,
Yeah, let me-
and then we'll get to your question, okay? Sorry about that.
So that sole is a very technical sole. It's super lightweight, and it's made for hiking. It's actually a hiker sole, and that's why they have to just eliminate the weight. And so there's two parts. There's actually two parts to that sole. And so the bottom part, the design part, is stuck onto the upper, what they call the midsole part. The midsole, it's just so difficult. Our machines kept burning the soles. They would actually melt. And so we had to learn how to so like Kyle said, we got a different soling machine. And then we had to develop a process to eliminate the melting of the sole. And so that in itself took days to figure that out. And then attaching it, normally you attach it, and we tend to stitch most of our soles on. This was not, this was a gluing process. And we couldn't, so this is that pull test. So we're sending them out for pull tests. They're getting rejected. 3 of them got rejected. And then finally, we did something really simple. We had these hydraulic hammers in our factory. And you just press the knob and the hammer goes hundreds of times within a minute. And so we started using a hydraulic hammer to seal everything up, and that took care of the problem. Yeah. Again, super technical.
Yeah, well, it's
The end result wasn't super technical, but the demand is super technical.
well, the creative problem solving that goes into it. It's like, well, how are we gonna fix this? You had a question, and I think we had someone.
Yeah, you've been known for really high-end shoes.
Yeah, thank you,
And your reputation is, across the world, actually.
thank you.
Does this change the direction of your marketing? Does this expertise that you've gotten and your equipment that you've gotten add more spokes to your?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good commentary because, my father was a moccasin maker and, pretty simple process when you look at a moccasin, very traditional, mostly all handmade. And, I joined him in the 80s and, quickly realized that, moccasin making was going to go away. I mean, it was just, the 60s were gone. The hippies were gone, that lifestyle was leaving, right? And so, when I joined him, we got into making these really high grade calfskin loafers. And that's really what propelled us to the next level in our business. Today, it's a real eclectic group of shoes that you have to, products that you have to look at. Kyle does, all the marketing and he does the design work on the new things that we're doing, like sneakers. We introduced sneakers 6 years ago now, I think 5 years ago. And it was a great opportunity for us because the boat shoe business at that time was really coming. It was dipping like everything else they dip, so they not as popular when we were dealing with it. And so, yeah, we're always, when we take a project on like this, it's difficult and change is difficult. But we need to learn. We need to be relevant as a company. So we have to make new things. We have to learn about new things, right? Otherwise than that, we won't have a future. Yes, hand sewing is the basis of our business, but we need to do other things that are relevant to the market.
Do you see the day where you'll have to send instructions with how to put your boots on?
Yeah.
That was a good example.
Yeah, that's right.
The-
Marty McFly.
So they did actually have to meet with all the athletes and show them how to lace their boots. Can you imagine that something as simple as lacing a boot? Wait, we got instructions with the boots.
Peak physical condition, but they're not so smart with the shoes. Okay. One more back here. Yes, sir.
No, right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, indeed.
Well, this is a direct follow-up to what you just said. I remember coming into the museum some years ago when they had this whole wall of shoelaces.
Yeah.
Did you make the shoelaces?
No, we don't make shoelaces, no.
So you sent them out basically and then they have the laces out?
Yeah, so laces are made in the United States and they're detailed by the design team. And then they'll typically order samples for us. And then after that, we've got to order the bulk production. Yeah, we don't make laces.
And did they allow you to have any of the workers sign any of the boots?
No.
No.
No, I mean, in the past, we've had other companies, allow or want our, staff to sign who they are. So that has happened. Yeah.
Were you able to put a made in Maine label inside?
No, here's the other thing. So the soles come from China, but everything else comes from the United States. And so they have a legal team, of course, they're a major corporation, came back and said, you can't say made in the United States, that's to say assembled in the United States of imported materials. So that's their decision.
In the back.
Yes, so
Yeah.
we're getting back to normal now, you can take a deep breath, but you know, you got the Summer Olympics in 2 years and the Winter Olympics. And you're lined up for them.
So I will have a comment about that, okay? So you all struggle with COVID, and when you're in the manufacturing business, it is not anything I would ever really want to go through again. So we were producing the 2020, when I gotta get my dates correct, the 2020 Summer Olympic sneakers. And as you know, they delayed it. And so we just started production, they stopped. So that was in from the end of 2019 to early 2019. We had to stop, put everything aside, and then they picked it back up in October of 2020. And so now we're in full production on the sneakers, run that all the way until I think our last shipment was like mid-July of 2021. And then the Olympic boots come in from a development standpoint in August of that year. And so we have been working on Olympic products for a good part of 1.5 to 2 years, prototyping and shipping. So yeah, I can take a deep breath. I'm thinking, God, I can take a deep breath. From this.
We have a Zoom question.
Zoom, okay.
Yeah, how did we get asked to make Olympic shoes? Was it a bidding process or did they reach out to you?
Oh, good call.
Yeah, they reached out to us back in 2016 when we made so Ralph Lauren has a funny checkered history with this. They actually, as I recall, the contract, because you got to buy the contract for the Olympic opening ceremonies and clothing. So they have to bid on that and they earned it. And I think it was 2014. I mean, you know, don't hold me to this date, but it was 2014. And so they just got blasted for the fact that they had nothing made in the USA for the 2014. And so they come back for so the winter, they came back for winter, which would have been 2016 or whatever it was, and said, no, we got to change this up. We got to have some made in USA. Then they come back for the summer and they say, okay, we're going to ask Rancourt to go ahead and make this product for us. And that's how it all started.
And that was the Rio shoe, is that right? It was your first one?
The boat shoe.
Yes, sir. That's the Rio shoe. Great.
Rio shoe. Oh, Rio, yeah.
2016 was summer,
Summer, yeah.
and then Allen and made their production in
Yeah.
2018.
2018.
2020, 2023.
Yeah, so Alan Edmonds made the boots for 2018 winter, and then we got it this time.
Right here.
Have you ever made boots before?
Yeah, we make, that's a pretty standard style for us. I mean, again, not as sophisticated. This is a complicated. We do, you know, much more tailored boots. They're not work boots, right? We don't make work clothing and so, or footwear. And so they're more tailored, but yeah, I love boots. I wear them all the time. I love our boots. I wear them all the time.
That's right. I would hope so.
So they come to you and ask you, hey, we want you to make this shoe.
Yeah.
You're a business, you
Yeah.
have other streams of income. How do you come up with I mean,
How do you, what?
a pricing, right? You say, oh, it's gonna take us this long to make. this
I don't
shoe.
even look at that.
Yeah.
I just say, okay, what, so this is very different now. So for them, so traditionally they'll take a certain amount of their pairs and put them in their retail shops. And it could be anywhere from 10% all the way up to 25%. But I don't worry about that. So, you know,
But you have to get paid, right?
yeah, what I'm saying, I never price something out on the Olympic side and say, here's what we need. What we say, or what I say is, the challenge is so enormous that here's the price that we need to make this work for us. And you never really get any pushback on it. You know, this is all PR for them. The Olympics is all PR for them. So paying us a few $100,000 and they're spending $10 million to put it on, that's a tiny amount.
Yeah, right.
So they paid you for all the leftover stock?
Whatever we have left over, that's a good product, we send them and they pay us. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we're coming to the end of our hour,
Okay.
Mike, but I have 5 questions. I'm gonna put you
All
on
right.
the spot. 5 shoe-related trivia questions. All the answers to these trivia questions include shoe items. And just remember, if you know the answer, let's see if Mike knows. Are you ready, Mike?
Okay.
Here we go. Here's an easy one. Complete this phrase, which encourages being resilient. Keep a stiff blank lip.
This is all shoe related?
Yes, the answer will be shoe related. Keep a
Okay.
stiff blank lip.
Upper.
There you go, very nice.
Oh, upper.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's it, not just a hat rack. Okay. All right, are you ready for question number 2? Mr. Irrelevant is a player in the NFL draft taken in this position.
Last.
Last is correct, very
You know what the
good.
last is? The last is.
It's this, it's the blue foot, right? Yeah, they took that off the one of the blue men. The 6th studio album by the Beatles is entitled Rubber Blank.
Why would that? Rubber Soul.
Rubber Soul, that's right, yes, yes.
I got a little help from the
You got it,
audience.
that's all right. That's all right, you did a great job. All right, here we go, here we go. All right, here's one. A common dog obedience command that is given when.
Kneel.
Oh,
Yeah.
good job, got that one, nailed that one. All right, here we go, here's the last one. Popular in Mexican cuisine, this cut of beef can be boiled, pickled, roasted, or braised.
Anybody want to help me with that? Tongue.
Hey, good job! Oh, he nailed it.
That's my partner right there.
I had this. Hey, good job. Absolutely. All been waiting for. Sorry at home Zoom. Sorry if you're zooming.
You're all.
In this here, I will hold it and I will allow you to
Oh,
choose.
just pick a top one.
No, dig around. Let's mix them up a little bit. Look at this. Fate is happening right here. Okay, good. There's down here. Let's take the toppies and move them around. There we go. Okay, everybody gets a shot.
Okay.
You ready? Bruce Hall.
Oh.
Hey, all right. Bruce Hall. Well, thank you very much, Mike. What a great time to let me be up here and talk with you and hear what you have to say. Thank you to everyone who Zoomed for the Museum LA Zoom. Look for more Maine in Maine from Museum LA coming out soon. We don't know what exactly that's going to be, but it's going to happen. So look for that Made in Maine series. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Again, thank you for all the folks that made this possible. And again, to the Olympic Food Bank.